Hello.
And we're here on Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Tonight we're going to be talking about
Corners.
Good
I
job.
remembered.
He knows the YouTube video. This week's YouTube video is about corners. So we're going to be sharing some tips about corners. We're going to be talking about contact and connection because the contact and connection webinar is coming up. If you haven't yet, save your seat. The link is above or below this chat. We're going to be talking about contact. Herman has a special demonstration to
I brought
show.
the reins because it came up yesterday in the office hours.
Yes.
And I hadn't explained it like this before, and I think it helped.
And we have a bunch of other questions. So I hope you all are having a wonderful day. It's been hot here.
Well,
for California. We're very spoiled.
But not like Santa Clarita or 100 and death.
Yeah, so hot here is like
80s.
90s. It's been like close to 90. And we're very proud of Herman for doing his own office hour session.
Managed that.
Well,
Olivia helped.
He learned how to drive Zoom and
Asana.
screen share. So for those of you who aren't in our programs, one thing that we do for our students is we do video review sessions where you send in videos and then we play your videos on Zoom and give you feedback. And
last night was my turn.
Yes, but normally he has a secretary.
Normally I have training wheels because no one's going to leave me alone for any length of time.
And yesterday he did it all by himself where he was screen sharing and showing the videos. And so that was very exciting.
And I was able to roll back and freeze stuff and use the cursor and draw lines on the horses and the people. It was
helpful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I felt very professional.
First topic for tonight is about corners. If you have not yet watched the YouTube video, it's about corners. So go to my YouTube channel, make sure to watch the video. We were discussing as we were walking home from the gym just now, what are the biggest mistakes we see in corners? You first.
They're ridden too deep and they're accidentally ridden too deep.
So how do you know how deep you should ride your corners? Because we all hear it, like ride deep into your corners.
Right, that's what happens. You ride deep into your corners. But, you know, riding deep into a corner at Grand Prix is not the same as riding deep into a corner at training level.
Yes. So at training level, I feel like how deep should your corners be? They should be like a quarter of a
20-meter circle.
Or maybe
or 15-meter circle.
I would say 15. And maybe at the canter, it's just a 20-meter circle.
Right, because you just don't have the collection to get in there that deep.
And then as your horse gets more balanced and more collected, then you ride deeper into the corner. So in the Grand Prix, it's like a quarter of a 6-meter circle. Right. And a corner is a quarter of a circle. So think of it like that.
It's 25% of your circle.
Yes. And what happens if you ride too deep in your corner? Like, why is that such a problem?
Well, then the horse generally comes off the aids because the rail is now turning the horse, falls on the inside shoulder, tempo goes out, balance goes out. Yeah. Nothing good.
So a really good tip to help you with your corners is counting the rhythm because you want to be able to maintain a steady tempo. So if your horse slows down in the corner or loses their balance, if there's like a hiccup in the gait or if they break, then you're probably going too deep in the corner. And
then you had said something about being counterbent in the corner, and that one doesn't trouble me as much. I know it's not actually correct, but you are turning the horse with the outside rein, and I think that is good. Yeah. And I think that is another reason why people end up going too deep into corners is because they're making the turn with the inside rein. So then they bend the horse at the neck in the corner, and that sends the horse to the outside. And that's why in the beginning it doesn't trouble me too much if they're a little counter bent, because at least I know the rider's turning the horse with the outside rein. We can get to the bend, but we can never get to a correct bend if the horse is falling off the line of travel.
Yeah. Oh, so Stacy says, so basically whatever size your circles are in your test, your corner should be just a teeny bit deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because like at Prix St. George, you do an 8-meter circle.
So then your corner is an 8-meter circle.
Or a 6-meter circle.
Yeah.
I would say a quarter of a 6-meter circle. That said, I do think that it is important to practice riding your corners, because I see so many people that like completely cut their corners. Or this is my pet peeve, is when I'm teaching a lesson and I tell someone go across the diagonal and they don't even touch the rail and they just like turn across
like
the diagonal.
from C.
Yeah.
Like they
and
go
you're
from
like,
C
where are you
to
going?
F. You like at C, they turn towards F, and you're like, oh my.
So corners are really, really important, because corners are what set you up for the next movement. And as you move up the levels, they become increasingly important, because at the Grand Prix, like the corners and the short side, those are your only free time. Those are the only time that you have to like reorganize, get your horse forward, get your horse supple again, get your horse on the bit, prepare for the next movement. So they're really important.
Well, even second level, you come out of the turn, make shoulder in.
Yes.
Like if you're not in the corner, where are you going to start your shoulder in? Somewhere out there in the arena. Oh, fantastic.
So it is good to set cones for your corners. Like that's a good way to practice them. In the video, I set out some cones, and that is helpful. And then so we're like riding down the long side, right? We're going to ride a corner. What are the aids that we're giving to our horse to turn through the corner?
Well, I turn my body. I look where I'm going.
Okay, step one, look where you're going.
Look where you're going. And you have them in the middle of your aids, and everything turns. And then at the apex of the corner, you've got to release the inside rein and ride forward from the inside leg. Your legs ride them down the long wall. You don't steer them down the wall. And it's really important to release the turning aid right there at the apex. Otherwise, you overstate the turn and the horse comes off the line of travel, and then they all drift back.
Okay, that was a lot. So you're going to turn your shoulders. I would say you put your inside leg on, because you put your inside leg on to create the bend.
And the drive, because they've got to keep going.
To keep the tempo. And then your outside aid turns the shoulder.
Yeah.
So I think of it like inside leg and outside rein.
And outside leg, because that's making the boundary on the outside. Bend that outside rein a little bit so that the shoulders don't come off the line of travel. It varies from horse to horse how strong you got to be there.
And then you also have a good point that so if you're going through a corner and you're going to go straight down the rail, you need to tell your horse that you're going straight.
Release the inside rein.
Like one step before you finish your turn, because that's another mistake I see riders making, is that they don't.
They're fishy.
Yeah, they don't have their inside leg on. And so, yes, they do a little fishy fish, which is not helpful.
That's really not going to help you set up for the next movement.
Yeah. The other thing that I've done with some students, this is like a little bit more of an advanced thing. So I would say if you're at second level or above, which means that you're doing 8-meter corners, is to think about going corner. I say when they're riding, I say, think about corner, short side, corner, and make sure that you go a few steps straight or shoulder 4 across the short side, and then another corner. And that's really important as you become more advanced, that it is like
there's a straight line between the corners.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of people forget to align their horse, and then they're just the whole time through the short side, their horse is overbent and falling through the shoulder. And then when you come out of the corner and you need to do a shoulder in or a diagonal with tempi changes or a pirouette, and you've lost the energy through the short side, then that is really not good.
You're going to suffer the rest of the test after that setup.
Yes.
Once you've lost your horse, it's difficult to get them back. The test isn't that long.
Yes. Okay. So I think I've answered these questions. How much bend to expect going through a corner versus a circle? So it should be the same. So whatever circumference you're on, you want your horse's spine to match that
arc.
So obviously there's less bend on a 20-meter circle than on an 8-meter circle. And that's suppleness. That's like developing our horses. That's what we do when we train them, is we make them more flexible. It's like yoga.
Right.
It takes
a while to get elastic and limber.
Yeah. Oh, and this is another good point. So walk versus trot versus canter.
Right. You can go deeper in the corner at the walk.
Yes. So that's a good point, is to practice riding a little deeper in the walk. a little less deep in the trot. And then if you're on like a green baby, you're not really
what
going
corner?
into
What corner?
You're not
now
really
it is a
going
20
into the
meter half
corner.
circle down there.
Yeah.
At least for a little while until you can get that under control.
Yeah. So those are good questions about corners. Corners they're important in this process, learning how to ride them. The other thing,
it's because the balance is going to change.
Yeah. And what rider position faults do we see in corners?
Leaning.
Or like the steering wheel turn.
Right.
Like
or
this.
The hands to the outside turn. Right?
Yeah.
Where the horse just isn't in the middle of the edge.
Yeah.
All kinds of body English. There's all kinds of weird pretzeling that happens for people.
Yeah. Twisting, tipping. It's important to remember that your horse's job is to turn. Your job is to stay straight above them. So you turn your shoulders like a camera on a tripod.
I think about a wheelbarrow with the two handles and the one wheel.
Yeah, but a wheelbarrow, you go like this.
No, not if you. I don't.
I do.
Down and
I go like this. Let me know in the chat. Do you turn your wheelbarrow like this and tip in your turn?
Well, fill that thing full of 100 pounds of rock and try and tip it and turn.
Okay, let me know in the chat if you twist your wheelbarrow or if you keep it straight. I guess you're right. It depends.
If it's heavy, you're going to keep that thing level. Otherwise, you're going to tip all the stuff out.
It depends how much crap you have in your wheelbarrow. Okay. All right. So hopefully that helps you with your corners. Please watch the video. It's on my YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Next, we're talking about contact and connection. My contact and connection webinar is coming up. I'm doing it 4 times and there's no replay. So the first webinar is next Sunday, September 1st. And then 30 Days to Round starts on September 15th. I'm super excited about 30 Days to Round. If you've done it before or if you're in strides, you know how awesome it is. And I have a good quote to read.
Yes.
I was reading it. We were walking home from the gym and I was reading this quote. So this is a quote from Yvonne Berteau. I hope I'm saying her name right. She's a trainer here in the US. I think Florida. Here's what she says. The best dressage connection builds from nothing. The best connection starts from nothing but an independent, relaxed seat and the quiet, neutral absence of aids. Whereas contact is simply the feeling of the horse's mouth at the end of the reins, a good connection is a much more sophisticated feel and a subtle yet highly effective way for horse and rider to get and receive information from one another. Connection involves an elastic feel from the snaffle rein that travels through the arms, back, seat, and legs of the rider. When true connection is established, the entire body becomes an effective and polished communication instrument. And that is where the art of dressage begins.
Right. But that's not so easy.
Let me know if you enjoyed that, if you're feeling inspired to ride from an independent seat.
Yes.
Yes.
That was difficult. That whole concept is difficult.
Okay. And Herman has a demonstration to show us about contact.
Okay.
All right. Are you getting your reins?
Block that thing.
Yeah, we have inappropriate language in our chat. All right. Show us your contact demonstration. Well, I tried. Keep going.
Okay. It's annoying that.
Okay.
So we all heard keep your hands still, keep your hands still, be still, keep your hands still, keep your hands still till the cows come home. The problem with that, I need more room. So let's say this is the horse's mouth and this is going to be the bit. And these are your hands. Now the horse's neck, certainly at the walk and in the canter, there's an oscillation. That's part of where you have to follow. These are your hands, this is the horse's mouth. If you keep your hands still and the horse's mouth, his head and neck are moving and your hands are still, this is what happens to the horse's mouth. You're banging him in the face with a chunk of metal. Still hands, yeah, you don't want them flying around like birds, but you have to follow the nod of the horse. The tension stays the same. So no matter where the head goes your hands follow that so that the weight in your hands stay the same, because still hands that are really quiet and still and bang, 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 and that's not good for your horse's mouth. How was that?
That was good. That was very good. So yes, make sure that you have an elastic, supple feeling contact. Super important. And I'm going to be talking a lot on the webinar about contact and connection and helping you understand, like, because we want to have that soft feel, right? And we want our horse to be supple and elastic. So how do you achieve that? And I think that's really hard to do. Herman was actually teaching me on Kensington, which has been great. He's been helping me a lot.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you for those kind words.
We've come to an understanding. I've learned to shut my mouth and listen, and he's learned to not get angry. But here's the thing. So I'm riding Kensington around, and he's saying, he's behind the bit, and you need to drive him into the bit, and you need to push him into the bit. And I was like, well, I hate that. I hate that terminology of like, you have to drive your horse into the bit, because I feel like it gives this impression of that your horse leaning, or like you're driving a nail into a piece of wood.
All right,
and
that's not so good.
That's not it. So like when you say drive your horse into the bit or push your horse into the bit, what does that mean?
That the horse is seeking the contact, that it's connected back to front, that when you close your leg, the horse is telescoping his neck out into the bridle.
Yeah. But then you want to supple that, right? Because it is like, first you have to create the energy that goes to your hands, but you have to keep that in balance. You don't want to so far forward the driving thing that you were that they end up on the forehand, because you're drive, and now you got to run away. Right. And you don't want your horse super strong in your hands. Like, I think the amount of contact that you want is like the soda can, like this. What is this? 12 ounces?
Yeah,
12
well, at least
ounces.
in the outside rein, maybe. The inside, you might be suppling.
You might have no contact.
Yeah.
But it is definitely something that's hard. I feel like that's the hardest part of riding, is the contact, and the connection is what we all dream of. Like, the connection is when you and your horse are in harmony and in balance, and when you're moving as one, and you don't have to like do so much. So, okay, people liked your demonstration.
That's good. Yesterday was the first day that I tried it, and I was kind of worried that it might seem harsh.
Well, learning is harsh sometimes.
So thank you.
Janice, I'm not sure what to do in the trot with my hands.
Make a transition to walk. And when the horse makes that transition to walk, obviously you want to use your weight, not pull. But in that transition to the walk, the horse has to gather himself up and then step to the walk. And that's the feeling you're after. And then you just trot on again. And that'll help the feel.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good suggestion. Exercises for riding into the contact. That's a question from Beth. So I would say number one is rhythm. That's like the first thing when you start thinking about contact, is you better be counting the rhythm and make sure that when you are thinking about taking up a light contact, that your horse doesn't slow down.
Right.
Or speed up. Most horses slow down when you take up the contact.
And the first thing I do when I think about the contact too is just getting rid of the slack in the reins. Right. I just
following.
Right. I just take up the slack, and then the steady rhythm, and just no slack in the reins, and that weight stays the same.
Yeah. Oh, Renelle's so funny. She says, I got contact and connection for about 30 seconds yesterday. Yay.
That's a great day.
It's so true, though. You have these little glimmers where like, oh, my horse is soft. Like, I've got it. And then it's just like.
I took a lesson, and people, it was with auditors, and the instructor was Albrecht, and the instructor says, did you remember those 2 steps in the trot, 20 minutes ago? And then after my ride, one of the auditors was like, you do all that for 2 good steps? Yes. That's what we do. But
then you have those feelings, and it's like an addiction. Like, you want to get them back, but it's like, hard and it doesn't happen every day. And it's, but that's what we all strive for. Okay. We have a few questions.
But that is the range at the walk, the trot, and the canter.
You have to say the question. Not everyone can say the question.
Oh. So the question is, what's that say? Kick 2103. What's that?
Don't worry about that.
Okay. It says, Herman, above a similar example of reins at trot and canter. But in essence, that is the walk, the trot, and the canter. It's your hands have to follow. Now in the trot, it's not as exaggerated, but in the walk and the canter it is, because there's definitely an oscillation in the neck. There's a nod in the walk and the canter that you have to allow for. In the trot, it's just not as pronounced, but there's still that following in all three gaits. So that example is all three gaits.
Okay.
It's just harder at the trot and the canter.
First question is from Lisa. She says, can you explain if your 30 days round course would work for someone having only one non-lesson ride per week, or does it require you to work for 30 days in a row? So it sounds like you maybe have lessons quite a few days a week. And so yes, 30 days round will work for you if you're taking lessons. If you're not taking lessons, it's called 30 days round because we do a challenge, but it's really like a lifetime program. I have students who've taken the program and they're like, oh, I go back to the content all the time and I revisit it. And so it's something that it's like a toolbox. It's a set of exercises where we focus really hard for 30 days. And then you can always come back and reference it later. So yes, it will work for you. Even if you only ride alone one time per week. It will also help you in your lessons because I'm going to be doing live trainings every single week. And so it's also giving you a lot of the theory of this kind of stuff. Like what is contact? What is connection? How do you get it? How's it different in the walk, the trot, and the canter? Next question is from Anne. How do you get bend and balance in the canter? That's a good question. Do you have any ideas for Anne?
Circles. And changes of tempo. Yeah. Transitions within the gait on that circle.
And I also think going back to the trot, because if you're having trouble getting bend in the canter, you probably don't have very good bend in the trot. So it's easier to fix things at the trot.
Well, that's true because it is harder at the canter for sure. Yeah.
So lots of trot, canter, trot transitions. Janice says, belated happy birthday. Thank you. It was my birthday on Sunday. We had a really nice day.
Yeah.
Herman gave me a lesson on Harvey. And then
you had a seminar or a
lecture? I did a straightness lecture for those of you in training scale masterclass. I did office hours for strides. And then we had a pool party, which is excellent.
With fish that Charlie cooked.
And Herman caught fresh halibut.
It was fresh halibut. We caught that the day before.
Yeah. So we went to a client's house and she has a beautiful pool and Levi had so much fun. Levi was like swimming. He loves the pool. He gets
a little excited. You guys see him taking a nap in the back, but he gets worked up in the water.
He was like panting and we were like, Levi, you have to relax. You can't keep swimming. And then it was cool too because there was an air show. So
there was an air show, Camarillo Air Show.
Yeah.
At the Camarillo Airport.
There were planes going.
And the best thing was that Levi was not lame the next day. So that was such a relief. I was just like, oh boy.
Yes.
Don't want a lame dog after all that.
Yes, he was good. Levi's had 2 ACL surgeries on both of his knees. So yes, poor old dog. All right. Next question is from Sally. I need suggestions to help keep my horse together. We're training 3rd level. We get really good trot and canter, and then I just seem to let the rein slip and it all goes downhill. I'm an older rider on an older horse.
What I like to do is at the R and the S and the V and the P, ride your pirouette canter. 3 strides to get into it, 3 strides by the letter, 3 strides back out, and then back to your collected canter. And now you're next to R, and you'll do that again.
That's a good suggestion.
It starts working on the collection, and then you keep thinking about the connection as you go then.
Yeah.
So you don't go 20 meters, get to the corner, and you go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Keeps you more present, more focused.
It also sounds like she lets her reins slip or her reins get long. Let me know, anyone here in the chat, if you tend to let your reins get long accidentally. It's a big problem. So don't let your reins get long. A couple of suggestions for that are thick rubber reins, which we talked about last week. I like the rubber reins because they're grippy, so they don't slide through your hands.
Remind yourself thumb and pointer.
Yes.
Because if your thumb and your pointer finger aren't right, the reins just slide right through.
Yeah. But the reason it's bad to let your reins slip is because, for one, your horse starts to learn that they can get the reins out of your hands. And horses are really smart. So they can feel like when your fingers open a little, and they'll just kind of root a little and get the reins out of your hand. And then they're training you instead of you training them.
And then the balance goes away.
Yeah. And so if you're always like long, short, long,
right,
then your horse is like, what do you want? Like, make up your mind.
Yes. That's where it's really detrimental to the training, is because, especially at third level, because now that's a serious amount of collection. And if half your ride is in that collection, and then the other half, I think I'll have, meatloaf for dinner. And then the horse falls on his face. Pretty soon, you're going to lose the trust of that horse.
Yeah. So, someone said rein dots. You can put like a little piece of electrical tape around your reins. Not that you always have your reins the same length, but at least then there's an awareness of like, the yellow strip is gone out of my hand. That can help. Sometimes too, riding without gloves can be helpful because it's like a different tactile sensation that will make you more aware of your hands. So I've even had the physical therapist, Stephanie, that we work with, she would make me ride without a glove on my dominant hand just for like a mental awareness of what's your hand doing. So that might be another way to help you just be more aware of when the reins get pulled through your hands. And you could also get some nice calluses on your hands.
Yeah.
I used to never ride with gloves. Like when I was a teenager,
that was so crazy.
I never rode with gloves, and I had all these like big calluses all over my hands. Back in the day when I was like a tough cowgirl, I'm just sit in front of my computer. It's kind of depressing. Anyways, okay.
And the rainbow reins are fine. Somebody asked about the rainbow reins.
One last question. This question is from Katie. She says, Katie's in our training scale masterclass. If you saw her video, you'd remember her. Can we talk about posting trot? Proper weight distribution in the seat bones, thighs, stirrups, pelvis angle. And she says she's asking for a friend, wink, wink.
So my friend told me I shift most of my weight down into the stirrups.
In posting trot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got to come out of the saddle.
Yeah, and if I'm trying to hold with my knees, it just doesn't work because then I'm tight everywhere.
But what's important with posting trot is that you keep the correct alignment, like ear, shoulder, hip, heel. Because if you let your leg go too far out in front of you, or if you tip forward, and you have to have...
But in the posting trot, if you post forward about 10 degrees, you're okay.
Yes.
Because you got to get your weight out of the saddle.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be that dressage straightness coming up. That's monumentally difficult. Now, I knew a woman that would do that way back when, but 10 degrees for the posting trot.
Yeah. And when you do land in the saddle, then you should have weight on your seat bones, even in both seat bones.
Right, but when you land in the saddle, you're not landing, right? You're
soft. Soft landing.
Yeah.
That is really important. In strides, we had a lecture from Dr. Russell. I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not even going to say it. But they've done all these studies where they put pressure sensors under the saddle. And what they found is that at the trot, the force, like your weight, is basically double. So when you're going into the saddle and you're posting in the trot, you weigh double your body weight. So whatever you weigh, you multiply that times 2, and that's how it feels onto your horse's back. So that is really important when you post, that you keep a certain amount of tone in your core so that you don't just thud onto your horse's back, because that's going to be uncomfortable for them. They're going to like hollow out in their back, which...
To answer nice. Linda's question, 10 degrees forward from straight. 10
From
degrees
vertical.
forward. From vertical, straight? Okay.
So your shoulders tip a little forward.
Yeah, for the posting trot.
Yeah.
So you get to tip 10 degrees forward.
Yeah. Yeah. But posting trot, I feel like it just takes time and repetition and counting the rhythm and trying to feel it. The other thing sometimes that helps is doing a little 2-point.
Yeah. A little 2-point without the post, just in the 2-point. And Debbie, here you got a good. I tend to post too high. I don't know that that's true. People say that all the time, that you're supposed to have these little teeny rises out of the saddle. And I don't think so.
I've seen that though. If your stirrups are too short, like a jockey,
right?
That is high. Posting too high.
That is high.
So yeah, there is kind of a balance there, but it's.
Yeah, if you're not locking out your knees, right, you're okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing with posting trot is that even though you're coming off your horse's back, you still have to stay connected and in the rhythm. And I think that can be difficult because you're kind of going out and then coming back in, and it's hard. So anyways, I hope you all have felt entertained by tonight's call. Please RSVP for the Contact and Connection webinar. If you haven't yet, invite your friends. It's going to be a good time. I've been working really hard on my slides and putting together some stuff that I think is going to help you to understand it a little bit more. And we'll be here next Thursday.
We'll see you guys next Thursday.
We have a horse show this weekend, so wish us luck. Everyone's going to be helping me.
I'm driving the truck. That's what I do. I drive the truck.
So it should be a good time. And